brings it all back to me was the ease with which the aircraft appeared to be flown. It sort of leapt off the ground and into transition in a way as if it had been doing it 1,000 times. You didn't feel it was a faltering sort of, let's see how it goes this time, chaps. It was confident in the extreme.
From Paris, the Rotodyne went on to appear at the Aeronautical Salon. There it was met with interest by companies such as Kaman Aircraft Corporation and the Okanagan Helicopter Group. Kaman had negotiated a licensing agreement for sales and service in the United States, and Okanagan had signed a letter of intent to buy one Rotodyne with an option to purchase 2 more within 3 years. With domestic and international interest in the project growing, the Rotodyne looked to be a success.
The airliner side was more or less demonstrated at the end of the day was the flight into Battersea, of course. Battersea heliport was quite a small heliport. In fact, the landing pad wasn't much bigger than the Rotodyne. It was almost like landing on the back of a ship. And they took it into London from White Waltham. They took it in twice, actually. I wasn't on board when it did that flight. I was actually measuring noise on London Bridge, on Westminster Bridge. And I couldn't actually record the noise above the noise of the traffic, which was quite interesting because the light-up point is the time when it gets very noisy. It went into Battersea twice, very successfully, and the only comment they had from the public in general was some woman rang up to say, what was this big air helicopter that went in, because the little boy didn't recognize it. So that was another demonstration, all aimed at the civil market, to try and allay some of the fears that people always had.
The flights into Battersea were done to dispel doubts regarding the noise levels produced by the Rotodyne. Tip-jet silencers had been developed to bring the noise to within acceptable levels, but these silencers robbed the tip-jets of power. Demonstrations were also undertaken in a second area. The RAF and NATO military leaders both witnessed the Rotodyne in action.
The other area that we hoped we would sell the aircraft was to the military. We wanted to show them that there was a place for big helicopters. And the important thing was, A, to move vehicles around, B, to be able to move large numbers of troops about. And one of the demonstrations they did, of course, was the famous demonstration with the nurses, where they got about 40 nurses on board the aircraft. But that's what that was all about, to try and demonstrate the importance of the Rotodyne as a military vehicle, and to show that there was a place in the battlefield for big helicopters.
During this period, design work had started at Fairey on a larger aircraft. New York Airways had expressed interest in the Rotodyne and placed an order for 5 of the aircraft with an option to purchase 10 more. This order was contingent upon the development of a larger Rotodyne. A Rotodyne that could carry up to 57 passengers. The test rigs at White Waltham were modified to accept larger Rolls-Royce Tyne engines, and a full-scale mock-up of the aircraft was under construction. However, a larger Rotodyne, designated the Type Z, would never find its way into the air. At the start of 1960, there were over 20 aircraft manufacturers in Great Britain. By 1961, these companies had been combined into 3. This government-led restructuring of the British aviation industry would delay and ultimately bring an end to the Rotodyne project. Fairey's aircraft division was merged with the Bristol Airplane Company and Westland, with Westland taking over the Rotodyne project. The ensuing corporate reorganization delayed development of the Type Z and gave potential customers the impression that Westland was not enthusiastic about the project. However, there is evidence to the contrary.
Yeovil, England, centre of the British helicopter industry and headquarters of the Westland group of companies, now incorporating Saunders Roe Division, Fairey Aviation Division and Bristol Helicopter Division.
At the time of the takeover, Westland became the sole manufacturer of helicopters in all of England. They acquired an experienced research and design team from Fairey Aviation and even gave the Rotodyne priority over a heavy lift helicopter of their own design. Further government support for the project was promised, but there was one condition. This support was based on the expectation of an order for the aircraft from British European Airways and a firm order from the military. These orders were not to materialize. Rotodyne was cancelled after delays to the program due to the corporate restructuring and a lack of interest on the part of the military. With no military order, there was no government money for development of a larger Rotodyne. In turn, Okanagan and BEA withdrew their offers, and the program was effectively over. After 4 years of flight testing and £11 million invested, the Rotodyne came to an official end in February 1962. All that remains of the aircraft is a section of the airframe, the rotor head, and one rotor blade at the British Rotorcraft Museum in Western-super-Mare.